Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, authors, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. Today, we are joined by the president of iVenture Solutions, Alan Schwartz. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security. So companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLink's intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 security operations center, we monitor your computers, networks, and cloud accounts using a combination of AI and highly skilled cybersecurity technicians in real time to detect any signs of attack or intrusion. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Alan, so for those who are not familiar, can you give us kind of the elevator pitch on iVenture Solutions?
Yeah, sure. So we're a managed services company, and really what that means is we have partnerships with small to medium-sized businesses to take over all the stresses and the concerns of IT in their business. And really our goal is to come in and kind of help them meet their business goals with IT. So we offer strategy in that realm. We offer the implementation of all the projects and things of that nature in order to meet those goals. And then obviously the day-to-day support in order to keep things running smoothly for them.
Love it. So a one-stop shop for all their IT and cybersecurity needs. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it. Now, you were one of the first employees at iVenture Solutions. I believe you said employee number 7. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So you guys started back in 2000. Is that right?
Yep. 2000. The company was started from a spare bedroom in one of the founders' homes. Is where it actually started. It's kind of an interesting story.
Love it. Well, do tell. I mean, we love these kind of stories. I think people learn a lot from it. They're also kind of endearing and gives us an insight into the company. So can you tell us that story?
Yeah, sure. So the company was started by 2 founders, Mark Schnitzius and Gray Mabry. And they kind of grew up together here in Florida and went their separate ways a little bit in college, but I believe stayed in touch and, kind of went into different directions. And Gray was heading towards a journalism track, I believe, interning at CNN, and Mark was working in data analytics over at UPS. And they had an opportunity with somebody that they knew to help them with their IT. Just kind of a side thing, just to, I forget what it was exactly, but it was just to help them get things on track for them. Went really well. And the person that brought them into that really saw in them that there's a big need for this type of work in the market around them. And 2, that they have the capacity and aptitude to actually execute that pretty well. So that kind of kicked things off, and they started from, their spare bedroom, working many, many hours until they were able to get a little bit bigger and get some new space and hire some employees like me to start helping them out and start getting things done. In the beginning, we were a break-fix company, so managed services really didn't exist. This was before that, where companies would call us when they needed us. We'd run out there, we fix whatever was going on, and then move on to the next thing. So there's not a whole lot of continuity in what we were doing at that time. But then we started maturing as a company, growing as a company, and this idea of managed services started to become a thing where we can solidify our practice and have more managed contracts, more time with clients to really get to know them, start building relationships with them, and really begin to become a company that becomes an extension of of our clients and become their IT department instead of just somebody they call when they need help.
Yeah. So when did that transition take place? When did you guys go from break fix to MSP?
I think I may not be 100% accurate, but I would say probably somewhere around 2006, 2007, kind of that area there.
Nice. That's pretty early on. So, okay. So one of the things I like is that for a lot of people who, kind of our watchers, they're not, necessarily a company founder. You started out at the kind of help desk level, and now you're the president of the organization. Can you kind of tell us that story, how that went, any kind of advice you have for others in the same position?
Sure. So yeah, like you said, I started out as at that time we were all network engineers, and I was doing the same work as everybody else, fixing things, servers, workstations, networks, all of those things. Once we started moving into managed services, we quickly realized that the path forward was to structure us into teams. So one of the things we realized early on was that companies were working with us and they really wanted us to know their networks really well. And without having a team structure, that made it very hard because you're constantly still working on different clients as you go. So we moved into a team structure that allowed us to have that to scale the business, but maintain a small company feel. So you could have really good, deep relationships with clients. You really understood the industries they were in. How does the technology tie to that industry, and really get a good understanding of how their business runs. And that in turn gives us an ability to know what's important. So that being said, my next step was to move into a team as the first team lead. So that was my first step into leadership and management and all of these things. Definitely learned a lot in that area, first time managing people. Sometimes they were older than me at the time, which, can be a little awkward. But you get to learn how to kind of work past that. And I learned a lot there. And then as we grew, there was a need to have somebody as a service delivery manager that managed all the team leads. So I stepped into that role. And then from there, director of operations. And over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to move into the role of president of the company and kind of continue the path that I've been on of leadership and operational management, and run the whole company instead of just pockets.
Fantastic. Well, I'd love to kind of dive in a little bit into the day-to-day kind of what you guys are doing for business development, what kind of changes you're seeing in the industry. So let's kind of go in that direction. Then I think it'll kind of naturally take us into the cybersecurity thing, which I think a lot of people are really, kind of interested in now. So in the day-to-day operations now, has that been a big transition for you, going from that kind of team lead to day-to-day? Is that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's things that I had to learn along the way. The big part of it was the financial, side of things of how does the business actually run? What actually makes a good business? How does that work? And I had a great mentor. Our one of the founders, Mark Schnitsius, was the previous president, and he's still with the company. He's just moved into a different role that he found interesting. So it was a good opportunity for me, and he was a great mentor to me to help me learn and understand that side of the business. And then it allowed him to do something he was really passionate about, which really he's focused on how do we acquire and how do we grow through acquisition. So he's out there making new relationships in that regard.
So is that the approach moving forward, is growth through acquisition?
It is one of our strategies. Yes. Growth through acquisition, entering new markets. I think it seems to be easier, at least from our experience, to enter a new market through acquisition than through organic growth. It's obviously faster. So, if you have the opportunity to buy into a new market, then that gives you a foothold and a foundation to work from instead of having to build it all from scratch.
Absolutely. And is your approach kind of geographic? Or are you guys going to a whole new area? So are you staying in like the Florida area? Are you going kind of nationwide? We've seen kind of the all ends of that spectrum on the MSP
Yeah.
side. People who kind of stay in the area and grow kind of regionally, others who've picked up places all the way across the country. So
Yeah.
what are you guys going for?
Yeah, it's I would say that our strategy is to stay still geographic and Florida and surrounding areas and kind of grow out from there. And the reason for that is we like to stay within a certain vicinity and keep our clients within a certain radius of us so that we can have easy access to go on site. And again, we are largely based on relationship. It's not just the ability to fix things, but it's also the ability to get to know people, have that relationship, and understand what it is that they need, possibly before they even know that they need it. And to do that, we need to be able to be there and talk with them and meet with them and do those things. So yes, you can do these things through Teams and you can do these things through Zoom, but I do believe that an in-person component is much stronger and easier to build that relationship.
Totally agree. I think that's really well said, and I think a lot of people overlook that, and I think that's when it becomes easy to acquire their clients as your clients, when they're just never there. They like to just handle everything
Sure.
remotely. They never really talk to them. They never really build the relationship, and
Mhm.
so then when things go south or there's an issue, somebody's a little irritated, they're ready to look for somebody else to help them out.
Right.
So I love that. So, okay, let's dive into the whole cybersecurity thing. What are you guys seeing? Because I think there's a lot going on in the world of cybersecurity right now. There's so many new threats. What's kind of the latest and greatest on your radar? What are you guys seeing a lot of now?
So I mean, ransomware has never gone away. That's still a big thing. And it's gotten to the point that I've seen where, when it first came out, it was, we're going to lock your files and you have to pay us and we'll give you the key and all those things. Well, now they've kind of started to jump right to exfiltration, which means we're not just going to lock your files. We're actually going to take it all, and then possibly post it out there for, the world to see. So, that's a big concern. And obviously companies with a lot of intellectual property, those kinds of things, that becomes extremely valuable. So I think that's a huge concern. I think the emergence of AI, and that being used in the world of cyber criminals is another concern. You can talk about deep fakes and they can grab voices and do that sort of thing now. So it gets to the point where it gets to be a very scary world. And I'm proud to say that we're building a company here that is able to navigate these changes. So our guys are very well skilled, very well trained, and we're always looking for ways to continue training. And this is a passion that they have. So it's not just a job. This is something that they enjoy. Even on their off time, they're going to be reading about, they're going to be learning about, and it's what's important to them. And those are the type of people that we're looking for, so that we can make sure we stay ahead as much as we can of the curve to maintain safety for our customers.
I think that's really important. I mean, because I heard a buddy of mine, he had this really great quote. He also runs an MSP, and it was really funny because he was talking about the different tools that people use, right? And it's so true that it's kind of like having a weapon, but no soldier or an untrained soldier with it, right?
Yeah.
So you can have the
Yeah.
best weapon in the world, but if your troops are not trained and skilled, what good is it,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, F from Epstein is the guy's name, and I didn't do his quote any justice, but you got the idea. And in any event, I think that's so true, because so many companies focus on, oh, we're using this cool new toy, we're using this great tool, fantastic,
Yeah.
but what good is it? I mean, a scalpel in my hand is probably an accident waiting to happen, or a murder weapon. In a surgeon's hand, it saves lives.
Right.
So yeah. So let me ask you. So how do you go through that process of finding good help? Because everybody's always complaining about it, especially since the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, how do you guys go about that?
Yeah, I think actually this is one of the things that we really, really excel at. And I think it's a differentiator for us as a company in our market. We have an exceptional human resources group. Our people operations director, Jen Corson, she does a great job at making sure that we're looking for culture. We always hire for culture first. So, technical skills we can teach. Technical skills we're very good at teaching. We're very good at hiring within and moving people up and bringing them into new areas. So it's more important to us that we hire people that have the right culture, the right aptitude, the right passion to learn, and all of those things. That's the key things that we're looking for. And it's sometimes hard to find that and to really identify that during an interview process. So we do have an extensive interview process where somebody will go through 3 or 4 different meetings, and even on sites, and sometimes we'll bring people in for a lunch or a dinner and meet them, and depending on the situation, just to really kind of get to know them as a person. But that culture piece is highly important to us.
That's great. So let me ask you, do you guys do do you allow your employees to work remotely? Is it all in office, hybrid? What are you guys going with there?
Yeah, we're in a hybrid situation. So we have some people that come in certain days a week, and we give a lot of autonomy to our groups. So each team is able to make the decision of what works best for their team. Because we don't want to set any, specific, policy throughout the company, because it doesn't work for, just everybody. And we're not in a situation where, we're making widgets in an office where you have to be here. So really it's about how do we best maintain the culture in the team, and balance that convenience factor that everybody has, come accustomed to over the last couple of years.
I think that's such a smart and kind of elegant and proper approach to it. I've known a number of MSP owners who insist on their people coming in and being in the office, and they constantly complaining that they can't find good help. I'm like, really? You're in the business of helping people work remotely, and you're forcing all of your people to come in, whether it makes sense or not, all the time. And you wonder why they're unhappy. I'm not saying that they should be working remotely, but your approach is really well thought out and well balanced. And I think the way that companies should go about it, in at least in this space where it makes sense, where you're not, as you said, coming in, making a widget. Yeah, how's a factory worker going to work remotely? That makes no sense, right? But in the MSP space, for sure. And so I think that definitely helps when you're looking for people who fit like you culturally. I think you've got a good recipe there. So let's go back to cybersecurity, because we kind of got off on this tangent. I think that's great. But in the cybersecurity realm of things, let's say that I am a small business owner. And actually, I guess I should ask, iVenture Solution, you guys focus, it's primarily small and medium business. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say I'm a small business owner. I'm concerned about cybersecurity. What should I be thinking about? What should I be coming to iVenture Solutions for? How can you help me?
Yeah. So, when we talk about cybersecurity, there's a couple of different reasons why small to medium business really go towards cybersecurity. And what I've seen is it kind of falls into kind of 3 different buckets. One is they have for their business a compliance need. So there's a compliance factor to it. That could be something like, SOC 2 Type 2, or CMMC, which is a relatively new compliance framework coming out for people with DoD contracts for manufacturing. So there's that compliance need that drives it. There's cybersecurity insurance premiums are getting more and more expensive, and they're requiring more things. So that is also a driver. And then, you have the fact that you constantly see companies in the news about, getting breached and data being, out there for the world to have access to. So there's a fear factor to that drives it. And, all of those things, I think you have to take a bit of a layered approach. And, one of those layers is training your people. Training is, I think, one of the basic key things that are fundamental to a good security approach, is making sure there is some sort of security awareness training in place. It's a little bit cliche. I've heard it 1,000 times, but your people are your kind of your first firewall, right? They're the ones getting hit with spam and, clicking on links they shouldn't be clicking on and things like that. So that education piece is very important. And then layering after that, doing things like dark web scanning. Is any of my information out there? Passwords and things of that matter out there that need to be reset, so that we can make sure we don't have criminals in any of our systems. Having SIM solutions, logging solutions that are kind of correlating all of these things together, and painting a picture of what's going on the network, so that we can actually have alerts to react to. And obviously the last thing that I'll talk about right now, I guess, would be kind of next gen endpoint protection. So having something like a product that is AI based and is behavioral based on your laptops, your workstations, your servers, that's watching what's going on and being able to identify nefarious acts and be able to stop them in their tracks and alert us, so that we can go in and remove whatever needs to be removed or fix whatever needs to be fixed.
I love it. Well said. So let's kind of work back from there. So on that endpoint, what are you guys currently kind of Sentinel-1, CloudStrike? What is it that you guys are using now, and why?
Yeah, we're using Sentinel-1. We've been a big fan of them. They've worked really well for us, and we've had several situations that have been stopped specifically because of how it works and what it does for us. So that's been a good product so far.
Totally agree. We're the same. We're at Sentinel-1 at Cyberlinks. Think it's absolutely fantastic. We did a lot of checking and testing with a lot of products, and I'm right there with you. Now, I am a little concerned, when it comes to where they stand financially as an organization and where they're going, because there's that. They've had a few struggles on the corporate level. But I think they're going to get through it, as long as they don't get, gobbled up by somebody. I love what they're currently doing, so I hope it pans out.
Yep.
So, all right, great. So your clients, going back to that example of, I'm the small business owner. So you come in, Sentinel-1, what kind of security training? Because I think you're right. I think statistically it's over 80% of breaches happen because of end user error, or whatever. So what kind of cybersecurity training do you guys like, and kind of how do you go about implementing that?
So we work with KnowBe4 and use their platform for our cybersecurity training for our clients, and that seems to be a really great product, because we can set up campaigns and we can do test phishing, and there's lots of facets to that allow us to make sure people make sure that they become accustomed to what to look for. So that's been a successful product for us.
That's fantastic. Now, when it comes to things like, let's say, multi-factor authentication, is that something that you think that end users should be using? Is there a multi-factor authentication kind of application that you guys recommend? What's your take on that?
Yeah, multi-factor is a key aspect to security as well. Typically, we use two different products depending on the client's situation. So, we're very specific to make sure we don't have one product just because that's what we use, but we want to make sure that we're providing the right fit for the company. So generally, we will either use Duo for multi-factor authentication, or if they're pretty much solely within the Microsoft ecosystem, then we'll use the Microsoft's multi-factor authentication.
Love it. Okay, so there we are. Let's just take a kind of a further look in terms of the services that you guys would provide my small Florida business here. what would that look like, right? So we what kind of service would it be? What kind of security? Kind of what are my options, I guess is what I'm asking. So here I am. I'm ready to. I know I need help with IT. I know I need help with cybersecurity. I come to iVentures. What should I be looking for in terms of is it packages? Is it how's this work?
Right. Oh, well, let me preface this by first saying I am not a salesperson, so my sales guys would do a much better job at this.
I love
The
it.
part of the
Well said.
discussion.
Well, okay, it's been prefaced. You got the caveat. You're not being graded on your salesmanship. Just
Yeah.
kind of the general idea in terms of packages and how it would work.
Yeah. So we have different levels that we work with our customers because everybody comes to us with different types of needs. So some of our larger customers will want us to basically take care of their network infrastructure, server infrastructure, cloud infrastructure only, but they hold on to that help desk, tier 1, tier 2 type support. So we'll get into a co-managed agreement with them. We call it our core agreement, where we're working with the heavy lifting of the infrastructure. And then we work as a team. So part of our goal here, again, going back to relationship and how we work with our clients, is we want to integrate ourselves with the existing IT team. So ultimately, our goal in those cases is for the end users and the company, our client, to never see a difference between iVenture and IT. We want a seamless experience for them. So that's very important for us there. Then we have an agreement where it's a full agreement where we take care of all of the day-to-day support, all of those things that come up, any tickets that come up, but project changes or an infrastructure changes our time and materials. So that's a fit for companies that they want to kind of split their OpEx and CapEx, and if they want to do it that way for their business. We see this a lot in some of our PE firms where they want to, push things more to a CapEx expense, project expense, while maintaining a bit of a lower operational expense. So that allows us to kind of fit into that model for them. And then we have some businesses that really just want to let us take the reins, and we'll do strategy, we'll do implementation, we'll do day-to-day, and it's all wrapped up into the agreement. It's called a full complete agreement. And we'll take care of all of those things. It includes the projects and everything, so that we can just kind of keep moving things forward, and take care of it for them. So those are our three main, agreements that we have. And there's some variations in there, to fit, to customize it for people.
Perfect. And what would you say the kind of average size client is for iVentures, or maybe the sweet spot client, your ideal or favorite even?
Yeah, I would say that probably ranges as far as like client size from, maybe 50 to 80 users ish, is a typical client. We range anywhere from about 15 up to, several hundred seats, manufacturing or, home services. They have hundreds of field techs. So we have some clients that have thousands of employees. But they're the field techs. A lot of them are field techs that are out doing, the work that they need to do.
Right. Well, so let me ask you, so in your team approach, which by the way, I love, and I think is really the best approach for small and medium business. I get it for large business. That's a different story. But for small and medium business, I think that you're spot on there. So let me ask you, how do you handle the actual contact with, so you've got multiple teams. Now, if I'm a new client, I've got my team, you've assigned me to, how many people on average would be on my team?
8 to 10.
Okay, so I got 8 to 10 people on my team. How would, let's say one of my employees calls up for help, how do you route that call?
So all the calls go through our initial help desk. And that's a shared service, right? So that's one tier of help desk people, and they have what we call the wheelhouse. So they have a very fixed, specific things that they're able to work on. And the idea there is, we want to knock out the things that are not specific to a company or business. We want to be able to knock those things out as quickly as humanly possible. And that area of our company is really important because they're closing over 50% of every call, every ticket that comes into our company gets closed at that level. So that allows us to have a very quick turnaround for resolution. And so if it is there's a time limit that it's able to be in their hands before it gets auto-escalated up to the team. Or if it's outside the wheelhouse, then it becomes one of the team's items to handle. So then it gets escalated to them because they are more intimate. They have more intimate knowledge of the company.
Got it. So I could call in and get a help desk person that I've never talked to. It's not necessarily assigned to my team. Mm-hmm. And they will have, it's like, hey, I need my password reset for my email, right? Something like that, right? A password reset. That's a help desk thing. Yep. Quick in and out, right? It wouldn't necessarily escalate to the team level, right?
Correct. Things that would go to the team would be like my line of business app, my QuickBooks, or my EHR isn't working or it's down company wide. Well, that's going to go straight to the team because that's going to be something that they need to work on.
But still goes through the help desk because that's first line. Everything comes in the help desk, and then would be like, oh, immediately escalated to your team, and they would get it. So correct. When somebody, as a client, would I have like the direct access to my team, or is it everything goes through help desk and escalated to the team from there?
It starts going through help desk. Obviously, our people have access to certain roles on the team. So there's a team lead, an account manager, and our what we call principal consultants who take care of strategy. So if you needed something specific, then our point of contact, any of the executives, they could reach out to the leadership of the team directly and then get access to the team. But the help desk is very good about being able to escalate quickly. So I mean, if somebody calls in and says, I need to speak to my team, they're going to do a warm handoff directly to the team and allow them to take it from there.
Totally. So let me ask you, so with that many people, who maintains the relationship really with the team, with the company? Is that kind of the team lead? Is it, what I'm saying? Because I think once you get a certain number of people, it's fine when it's like 2 people. Okay, well, there's 2 people. They're constantly talking to the 2 people. Fine. Great. But once you've got a help desk, then you've got that. Mm-hmm. How do you go about kind of keeping that relationship warm and well maintained, mm-hmm. Without it being one of these things where it's like, hey, we've got plenty and I'll give you a very specific example. We've got plenty of providers for my company where the account rep keeps changing. And they're like calling out, we're going to, keep the relationship, and they're just doing their job. I get it. Right. But there's no real relationship there. They're just putting somebody else in that role. Yeah. And so it's like, all right, well, I like the first one. She was cool. But the last 4 have been like, meh. I mean, I've got no neat reason to talk to him. I started a relationship with that person and that was cool. And now it's like, meh. So how do you guys go about that? Is there a solution for that? Or is it just, that's just par for the course? That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, so to try to combat that, because I definitely have seen that as a problem. Like over the years, if people turn around, obviously that becomes an issue. So tenure and finding ways to keep people, happy in their role, happy what they're doing, and keeping that relationship is a key factor. So that goes back to our culture, and it goes back to making sure people, we are developing a company where people want to stay and people want to work and that they enjoy what they're doing. Yeah. So that's an important piece because you have to have that tenure to be able to maintain that relationship. So that's one side of it. We also try to maintain relationships at different levels in the company. So we recognize that different areas of our contact with a customer require a different level of relationship. So at the executive level, if I'm working with, if my team is working with a CIO or director of IT, something of that nature, their relationship is really going to be at the principal consultant layer, because that's the most appropriate person for them to really develop a strong relationship with, because they're more closely aligned. Yeah. And then our day-to-day point of contact, is going to be mainly our account manager. So the account manager kind of becomes that central person really of all roads lead to the account manager, and then they will bring in a team lead if I have an operational question or issue, or you know what, this is more of a strategic thing. So if it comes into the account manager, they'll bring in the principal consultant at that point.
Love it.
So we try to make it all go to the account manager, but naturally people develop these in, other side relationships out of, mutual need.
Yeah, no, it makes sense when and I think you really nailed it when they're kind of on that level with, like, let's say you're working with the CIO, and makes perfect sense. Which makes me wonder, how do you guys do things like like virtual CIO service? Because you're kind of a one-stop shop, right?
Mhm.
And so in that particular case, are those things that it's just an hourly billed thing, or do you have packages for that? Kind of what would one expect from that?
So that's actually built into every one of our packages. So if you're a client of iVenture, then you have access to a principal consultant, and their whole point in life is to work with you on what are your business goals, what do you want to achieve, and then we develop a roadmap of technology in order to meet those goals. So it's not just we have to do the basic stuff, the life cycle stuff, right? This is getting old, it needs to be replaced, or this is ending life, we need to get something new. So that life cycle stuff just needs to happen. But above that, there's a question of where do you want to go, and how do we need to get there? So that's going to dictate the type of technology that we're looking forward into the future in order to put into your environment to support those goals. And every one of our agreements includes access to that person.
That's great. Now, so a lot of company MSPs, shouldn't say a lot. Some have very fixed package prices. Some have very open. We structure it, very specifically for each client and to their needs. Where do you guys fall on that spectrum?
So we bill, by user. I think I'm going to answer this correctly. I don't know. You have to correct me if I'm
We'll
wrong.
see.
But we bill by user, and obviously it's a tiered approach. So depending on the number of users you start with us at, that's kind of where we're gonna land. Obviously there's room for it during the sales process. There's room for negotiation. Everybody has a little bit of a different situation, right?
Yeah.
A good example is, like I said earlier, a company that has field techs. They aren't really using a lot of technology in their day-to-day jobs, so they're not going to create a lot of volume. So we don't look at those users as we do like a day-to-day in-office user that's going to utilize the entire IT stack. So there's a difference in what we charge for those types of things to try and be more fair in our billing processes.
Yeah, love it. No, and I think that's the right approach. I think there's a lot of companies that are very much we're a per device company. Makes sense. I get it. There are those, and I think they end up having certain challenges where people are like, I don't want to cover these computers. Well, now those are security risks, so now you're always fighting that. Versus, and I'm a supporter of the per user approach, because now it's like, look, if you've got 3 computers, because you've got your home computer, your work computer, and your laptop, I don't want people nickel and diming it and be like, well, I'm what, I'm not going to use this one often. I'd much rather just look, all your stuff is covered. We want to cover the entire company. And it's more the psychology of it. I think really at the end of the day, it's not so much of is it per device, is it per user? It's the psychology on the client side is what makes them feel like that's fair and that's right, and I'm taken care of.
Yeah, and to be honest, there's a selfish reason for that too.
Fire away.
Those machines that are not, quote unquote, not covered, there's going to cause issues, on the rest of the network. So I might as well just cover them, because it's going to create a smoother operational situation, not just for the client, but for me too, who has to support them.
Absolutely.
So I might as well cover them and make sure that we're both in a good place.
Well, then that leads me to the next one. So then in those packages, the per user, are you guys kind of the all remote support is covered in your package. It's included. It's not billed, or no, you still pay per ticket, or how do you guys go about your billing there?
Yeah, no, not per ticket, not amount of time. Basically, you pay a fixed price per user, and it's unlimited service. And that goes for on-site service too. We're not going to nickel and dime people to go on site. If something needs to happen on site, our team leads and our teams know you get in the car and you go and you handle it. Because ultimately the issue here is not about the technology issue, is maintaining that relationship. That's the big thing, is the relationship. And nothing will hinder the relationship more than, nickel and diming or pushing back on, I just didn't want to go out there. We're not going to do that. You just need to go out and you need to handle the issue and take care of them.
I love it. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's, at the end of the day, that is the job. Take care of and protect, serve and protect. We're kind of like the IT cops, right? You're serving and protecting. And so I think that's a great approach. So, Alan, this has been absolutely wonderful having you on. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and iVenture Solutions?
Sure. Our website is iVenturesolutions.com. And I'll be specific. There's no S in the middle. A lot of people call us iVentures. So just to be clear, it's iVenturesolutions.com. That's our website, and you can find us on LinkedIn as well. Follow us there and see all, we do a lot of culture posts. You'll get to see kind of a window into us as a company there really well. So I think that's a good place to get to know us.
Love it. All right. Well, hey, Alan, thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.